At first, it was a lie told to others. Then, it became a story they repeated. Then, somewhere along the way, they started to believe it themselves. Not just out of pride, not out of strategy, but because the truth was too dangerous to face. This is what happens when powerful leaders fall into the mirror, and the reflection that stares back isn't real. Napoleon Bonaparte, Donald Trump, two leaders 2 centuries apart, and yet they share a moment of terrifying transformation. The point where self-delusion isn't just a tool, it becomes their reality. Let's rewind. When Napoleon first rose, he was tactical, calculated. He manipulated public opinion, yes. He censored newspapers, rewrote war reports, distorted history. But deep down, he knew what he was doing. He was crafting an image, a myth, a symbol. But after years of being celebrated, obeyed, worshipped, something changed. He stopped questioning himself. He stopped listening. He stopped doubting. He began to believe the myth he created. He wasn't a man anymore. He was the emperor. He wasn't conquering Europe. He was fulfilling destiny. And anyone who disagreed was simply wrong. This is the moment when delusion becomes internalized, when the story becomes a prison, when the mirror becomes reality. Now jump to Trump. At the beginning, his wildest statements often had a wink behind them, a smirk, an understanding that he was bending facts to make a point or get attention. But slowly, that smirk disappeared. It was replaced by rage, conviction, certainty. He didn't just say the media lied, he believed it. He didn't just claim the election was stolen, he felt it. And suddenly, everything that contradicted him wasn't just wrong. It was evil. It was fake. It was a threat. Like Napoleon, he began to lose the ability to hear dissent, to accept alternative facts, to see the limits of his own story. Because the moment he admitted a lie, even a small one, the whole structure might collapse. And that's the trap. The longer a leader believes his own myth, the more fragile he becomes. The more truth threatens him, the more he attacks it. The more he demands loyalty, not just to him, but to his version of reality. For Napoleon, this meant dragging France into catastrophic wars. He had to keep winning, even when the odds were absurd, even when his generals begged him to reconsider, because admitting doubt meant admitting he wasn't who he claimed to be. For Trump, this meant escalating rhetoric, fueling conspiracy, doubling down on denial, because the alternative, facing loss, failure, or blame, was too unthinkable. So the lie had to live, and he had to live inside it. Here's the paradox. These men didn't start out delusional. They were sharp, strategic, effective. Their self-belief was a weapon, but that weapon turned inward. And once a leader starts believing their own lies, they stop growing. They stop adapting. They lose the one thing that matters most in power: clarity. Let's look at the signs. Napoleon's final years are filled with desperate decisions. He invades Russia in winter, believing sheer will can conquer frost. He returns from exile, thinking old loyalty will ignite like before. He loses at Waterloo and blames fate. At no point does he say, "I went too far." He can't, because emperors don't make mistakes, because gods don't apologize. Trump, too, spirals in his final year in office. He surrounds himself with yes men. He dismisses facts. He isolates critics. He fuels a mob, then claims it was peaceful. Even now, he repeats the lie, because the lie is safer than the truth. But what's the cost? The cost is reality itself. When a leader lives in delusion, the people under them must choose: adapt to the fantasy or be cast out. Truth becomes dangerous. Questions become betrayal. And governance turns into performance. You don't solve problems, you deny them. You don't admit failure, you reframe it. You don't lead, you protect the illusion. History shows us this doesn't end well. Napoleon dies alone on a distant island, surrounded by old loyalists still insisting he was misunderstood. Trump faces indictments, exile from platforms, but still insists he won. Both cling to the mirror, even when it cracks, even when it cuts. But let's not laugh. Let's not point fingers and feel superior, because this isn't just about them. It's about us. We're drawn to leaders who believe, who speak with certainty, who offer simple answers, who never say, "I was wrong." We mistake conviction for competence. We confuse myth for meaning. And sometimes we too start to believe the lies. Because it's easier to believe in greatness than face complexity. Easier to follow a flawless hero than confront uncomfortable truths. Easier to chant a slogan than sit in silence and think. That's how mirrors multiply, how delusion spread, not from above, but from within. So what do? We start by honoring doubt, by respecting those who say, "I don't know," by choosing leaders who ask questions, not just answers. Because the moment we stop questioning, we start falling into the mirror too. Napoleon taught us the cost of unchecked belief. Trump shows us its modern form. But if we're willing to look up and really see, we might notice something simple, painful, and powerful. The truth doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It doesn't need to win. It just waits, quietly, until we're ready to stop performing and start seeing.